James.
Okay, awesome. I would say, speaking on behalf of your, that story that you just told about your grandfather, that was just a sad story, obviously, to lose somebody and to remember the people. That's the good thing that you do. You do remember the people that you lost. But more importantly, what I think about when I think about that generation is how they came home and they hung up their uniforms for the most part, and they went to work and made an example of success. They created industry. They created, some of the biggest businesses in the North America now were created by World War II veterans who came home and went to work. That was their therapy. There's a lot of stories about how drinking was a big thing, and that's kind of where most of your your veterans post and stuff. They all had a canteen, and there was just but they didn't let that interfere with their work. If you look at Enterprise Rental Car, that was a World War II veteran that created that. And all of these other, there's so many other construction companies and businesses, and some of the big contractors that you see now all began right after 1945 when these people were coming home. The resiliency of the World War II generation was taught to me. I watched it. I had an uncle that was captured in the Philippines. He was there originally. He went into the Army in 1939 because he could not get a job anywhere else. And it was hard to even get in the military back then, by the way. And ended up in the Philippines and ended up being, captured and on the Bataan Death March, and survived all that, had an appendicitis attack while he was in captivity. The soldiers that were there, the other people that were there, multiple countries. There were Brits there. There were Filipinos there. There was everything in that prison camp. They all got together and they bribed a Japanese guard, and he gave them sake, and he gave them a knife so that they could do the surgery. And there just happened to be a guy that had enough knowledge of surgery that he was able to take out my uncle's appendix. So this is the kind of generation that your grandfather, that you're talking about here. And when we talk about what's going on in America today, look, people get pissed off if their latte is not hot enough. Imagine if you're sitting someplace and your appendix is getting ready to explode, and they're taking a little bit of sake wine and they're pouring it on the knife blade, and they're lighting it up with a match to disinfect it, and they're standing there with flashlights trying to cut you open to take out your appendix so that you'll survive and you'll live. And we don't know the suffering that some of these folks had to go through. And when he came back, it was tremendous suffering. I told you about me taking, Japanese lessons. He spoke fluent Japanese. And when I was a little boy, I asked him about it. Where did you learn how to speak Japanese? He said, if you didn't learn how to speak Japanese, he said, you would die. He said, you better learn how to speak it, understand it, but more importantly, understand it, because they really didn't tolerate any lack of discipline. And he told me some stories about captivity that would make your hair stand up on the back of your neck. And sometimes, Greg, when he would be sitting in a chair, he would fall asleep. And if you would wake him up, he would wake up and start to shout out something in Japanese. And I don't remember exactly what he said, but we didn't understand it. We were just like, wow, what's he saying? So he had terrible PTSD. But what he didn't have was a lazy bone in his body. And he raised his family. He went on, was a successful worker, worked in construction, successfully raised kids and made a profound, let me think, I'm trying to even think. He had a profound influence on how I viewed a lot of things in life, and especially about survival. And, you know, probably was a good part of the reason why that I was able to come through some of the things that I came through. And, you know, and I don't even try to even equate that half to what it must have been like to be on Corregidor, you know, whenever the whole dang thing, all the sugar went, you know.
What a show today. Wow is right.